We are talking about how to travel as a full-time student. I am so excited to introduce you. You're a pharmacist, a travel content creator, a Forbes contributor, and you are representing South Asian and Muslim women, and you're a voice for solo travelers. I'm so excited to hear from you today. So I will be quiet and let you take over. Hi, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you all for showing up. I'm so excited to chat about this. I feel like any opportunity I can get to talk about travel after the almost 2 years we've had is like super exciting for me. And I'm excited to have other people who are just as passionate about travel here. Christine, you're so cool. I checked out your page too. You drone pilot. That's so
Oh, I love flying drones. I really, really do. Actually, I'm going to be doing a 17-day expedition flying drones in the Maldives coming up, but that is beside the point. Are you
cool.
able to share your screen okay? Let me make sure I've stopped sharing mine. I think so. Can everyone give me a little head nod if I've stopped sharing my screen? All right. Oh, we can see your screen now. Yeah.
Let me just put it on present.
We all love it when technology works, right?
Right? Okay, can everyone see mine? And
Yes.
wonderful. All right, well, I accidentally hit. Okay, perfect. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining to talk about how to travel as a full-time student. And for me, that was for like finding a lot of different opportunities to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in how I was able to do that as a full-time undergrad and grad student as a pharmacy student. So for today, I'm going to chat about a little bit about me, a little background and where I've been and how I did that, the different ways I did that and the different ways of travel I included, and then just like how to make those connections, how to find those opportunities, how to make friends, and how to really have a wholesome experience while you're still traveling, and then also how to like afford that. And then obviously the end will be all about the Q&A. Okay, so like Christine said, I am a full-time pharmacist now, part-time travel content creator, blogger, influencer, writer, I don't know, all of those like multi-hyphenate things. But as a student, I'm based in New York right now, but I went to school here. And as a student, I visited 36 countries between my 3 years of undergrad and 4 years of grad. And I started Dose of Travel, which is like my online name, when I was a freshman in college because of my first trip. I took my first trip at 18 to Spain. I booked it right before my Chemistry 101 final for the summer, and I felt, I don't know why, compelled to buy a one-way ticket to Spain to be an au pair. And so I paid for all of my trips as a student, like working or finding opportunities to work while I was abroad. Okay, so I really want to capture the different ways I was able to travel full-time as a student. So I was in school and then I used every opportunity that I had, like breaks, any vacations, winter breaks, spring breaks, or even a long weekend, I used it to travel. And so the reason I was able to travel so much was because I'd say that I got a little bit crafty in how I started to look at opportunities of travel. I didn't just see it as like a vacation, but I started to look at it like a resume builder. I still very much had that student mindset. And I was like, well, I know like summers are supposed to be used for internships and I still wanted to learn. So I wanted to make the most of my travels and get a really full and wholesome experience, but also being able to afford it because school is expensive. So I'm going to walk through the different ways that I had visited 36 countries and the different opportunities that you can also utilize if for like your summer breaks, if you are focusing on your studies and don't really have, the cash flow to spend on like a nice vacation, or maybe you just don't want to. I still travel this way because I'd rather find an experience or something that lets me be involved with like the local community or the culture, because I find that really important. It makes for more fun travel for me. Okay, so I mentioned my first trip was as an au pair. I spent my summer in Spain, Madrid, Spain, And I spent 3 months there. I took care of three children under the age of 6, and got free housing and free food, and then also got a small stipend. Got to live with the family and, see how they live, how they go to work, what like school looks like, just hear the language, also teach the children English. And then I did it again in Italy, outside of Verona in wine country, where I lived in like a cute little, I guess, I don't know if it'd be a villa or a cottage, but it was like perched away up on a hill. I'd wake up to like vineyard and have like my espresso in the morning and hang out with a 13-year-old girl for the summer. And I was just like a big sister, we would hang out. So that was one way I traveled, and I'll dive into what that looks like a little bit more. Because I was a pharmacy student, I really wanted to double up on things. How could I use what I was studying to go learn or implement what I'd studied? So I applied for research grants and worked on independent studies, and was able to go to Uganda for 2 weeks. And then the other way that I like to do, and now it works for me as I am full-time, like working full-time, work exchange programs. So I've worked at like several hostels around the world, like as a receptionist, bartender, social media manager, whatever I could like try my hand at or bring value to, I've tried to either pitch or just have gone on websites to find open listings. Okay, so before I share more into it, basically, I guess the question that I always get on like social media and everything, and ever since I started traveling and really posting about it on social media, is like, how do I find these? Thankfully, the internet has made it so easy to find, but also having like this ability to like share your skills and no longer needing to like have like certain degrees, like you can prove your value and find something for everyone. Like I never thought I'd be able to blend my pharmacy degree with travel, and I've found ways to do that. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, that has been something that everyone has been talking about, is like travel and health. So there's really something for everyone. But the things that I'd recommend if you're a student, and what depending on what you're looking for, is like determine those items. Like, are you looking for free accommodation? Are you looking for a cultural local experience? Do you want to build your resume? Like, do you want an internship to, when you graduate school, to use to get you forward and find a career? Are you looking to just learn a new skill or learn a new language? Because honestly, I feel like that's one of the best ways, is to go to a country that speaks it, rather than, for me, learning online or Duolingo just never works. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to travel initially. Are you looking to meet new people? Are you looking for like nightlife or a different atmosphere than what you're used to? Using your degree, or like I mentioned, resume builder. So deciding what you're looking for or what you want to get out of this experience will help you propel you to figure out what kind of opportunity you're looking for and how to find them. Okay, so the first one is au pair, and I like speaking about this one because this is really special to me. It was the first time I ever traveled by myself, and for me, I liked that having like someone's home to stay in gave me some sort of like, comfort that I wasn't completely going to be alone. Like I won't have to figure out what I'll have to do the next day, or like how I'll spend my time. Like at the very least, I knew I'd have like a home, like food, and like would really have like the family that I stay with to live with to like talk to. And that gave me comfort. So when I decided to be an au pair, for me, I was looking for just that. I've been to Europe twice, but it was with like friends or with like a school trip. So I was like, I don't know if I would want to stay in like a hotel. I didn't know hostels were a thing then, or like Airbnb, to be honest. Um, so I was looking for something long term because I didn't want to come back before school started. I really wanted to stay away from home. I guess, yeah, I'm from upstate New York. So like it was like winter and it's like there's not a whole lot to do. So I was like, you know what? I need to get out. So I wanted something long term. In order to convince my parents, I needed something like a resume builder or something that I could walk away with. And so, having experience like this, learning a language, just living abroad and taking care of a family and like really assimilating was something that I had pitched to them. I wanted to be working because yeah, like to work, I guess. I wanted culture, local exposure, and I really liked working with kids. And those are the things that I would say are kind of like, if you're looking for something that's long-term, a resume builder that you don't mind working, because you'll be working 30 to 40 hours, and you must like working with kids to do this, then that would be an option. So basically an au pair is like a live-in nanny, and like typical job description I would say is like taking kids to and from school, getting them ready, taking care of them or entertaining them after school, like getting food ready, teaching them or like teaching them your language. That's mostly why au pairs get hired, is because the family wants like a caretaker who will speak to them in their native language, which is not the children's native language. So you get like most of your days free after you drop them off at school, depending on what time of year you did it. I always did it in the summer. So like they went to like summer school, and I would drop them off, and then I'd have like, I would have the days off, and then I would go pick them up, and then I'd have the evenings off again. And so where do you find these opportunities? There are so many agencies that will pay you to do this and will find a family for you, but you do have to pay them as well. And they'll find you like a reputable family, someone that's like been background checked, will provide support once you get there if it's not the right fit, and will make sure you get paid and get paid on like, a timely order. But there are also free websites, and yeah, I was a student, so I definitely went with the free website. For me, I had known my best friend had done au pairing before, and she used this website called Au Pair World. And most of the people I met also use that free website. I was hesitant at first because I was like, it's a free website. How do I know if this family is like actually like a real family, or like catfishing is a thing? But they do say that they take background checks, and I felt safe using it. So that's the caveat I will put there, because I don't want anyone to, pursue this free website and like just want to put that out there. There are agencies and there are free websites. So needless to say, my first time being an au pair was like amazing. I had such a great family. I had such great children to take care of. I really enjoyed being there and learned so much about like Spanish culture by living in a household, like the whole siesta thing. My Spanish got so much better. It really improved, and I felt like I could comfortably get around. I also found it liberating because you had someone there, but then you would also have your weekends free and your days free. So I made so many friends, friends that I still talk to 9 years later, and we'll be meeting up with this weekend. So I'm really excited about that. But I bring this up because to me, it really changed the way I saw things and was just so instrumental early on. So much so that I did it again in Italy. And I have this article here. I'll send the deck out later, but there's an article. So if you don't want to hear it from me, so many other people have said that being an au pair changed their life. And this woman shares like 6 different ways that it did that. So that's there for later. Another way that I was able to travel was maximizing my college and university experience. Like, we already pay so much to be there and spend so much time there. So I really maximized those opportunities and went to any office or group that could help me find those opportunities, whether it was a fellowship, a scholarship, a hackathon, competition, an entrepreneurship office, because there's always different competitions or prizes to be won and different ways to get involved, or just like networking. So for me, I thought about it as a way of free travel, because I'm already paying to be there. So if you're someone who's looking for college credit, something that's university affiliated for just for safety, or to know that it is recognized, or an opportunity to travel for free, this could be an option for you. I found a couple of opportunities and I listed them there. Basically, I'd suggest, if you're interested, find out if your school has an office of fellowships or scholarships. Most schools do, I found, and they have such a large library of different opportunities, whether they're national government opportunities, or if they're locally, from a local business, or a local partnership with the university and another university. Look for hackathons. My school had, billboards or little cork boards with different opportunities happening, but they also had a database. with all the different events happening, and I was on there all the time, like looking up for any like innovation challenge, any competition, leadership opportunities, student associations, and then the study abroad office. There's so many opportunities there and so many scholarships available to study abroad. And your career services, they can let you know about like different opportunities like jobs abroad, internships abroad, or connect you with like alumni who could be working in another country. At my school, they had something called Going Global, which I would have never found out if I didn't go to career services. It's a global only service to find jobs and internships, and they like have been approved and they're like legitimate postings. And it was such an easy like database to go through. And I think the school had to pay for it. So it was great that we had opportunity to use that without having to like pay for it ourselves. And I connected with a lot of different students from other countries to talk about what they're doing, and met some of the students who had come through Going Global at my school. I didn't have an opportunity myself to go. And the other thing I found is like if your school doesn't offer much, and perhaps like you go to like a public school system and there's other schools or universities in there, you can check other schools, and sometimes they allow you to like take part in another school's program. So don't limit yourself to your own university either. Local organizations. So this is if you're looking for a fully funded opportunity. There are so many small businesses or local businesses, alumni associations, community organizations, and community colleges that'll offer different like partnerships or programs that like just never thought about. And so I would just check with like different things happening in your community. If there's like a community newspaper or like newsletter or organization that you like frequent, they often find out different things that are happening too, which you can lean on them for. Okay, this is one of my favorites because there's so many different opportunities, and I feel like you really don't have like an idea of like where you could end up. So for a work exchange opportunity, that basically means that you will get a free accommodation for the work in exchange for working. So it's ideal for someone who's willing to work abroad, build their resume, meeting new people, and like looking to be kind of stationary. Like you'd have to stay there obviously to work. So these can range from all over the place. It could be hostel work, which I did a few times. I did it for 3 weeks in New Orleans for Mardi Gras because Mardi Gras is expensive and everything is so, so expensive during that time. And so I worked at a hostel as kind of like a receptionist, but also someone who had an event on one day of the week. There was different things that we did and it went on rotation, whether it was like a walking tour or like a burlesque show or like a happy hour thing. And so that allowed me to stay and experience Mardi Gras, something that was on my bucket list, but also to meet people and just get to explore a new city for a little bit longer. And then I did it again in Cape Town for 6 weeks. And that's where that photo was taken. And that was really, really fun because it was a different experience. It was a brand new hostel. It was very wholesome. And I would work receptionist, but I would also get some really great perks of like going on different tours, like a wine tour or snorkeling with seals, and just about a really great community of my like coworkers. And it was in the prime location, and I got 6 weeks free to stay. You can do receptionist work at different like hotels. You can work at a ski resort. There's farming if you're into that. You could work at a national park for some time. And then if you haven't heard of Yacht Week in like Croatia and like Sicily, those are also, I've heard really fun but hardworking and demanding jobs for the summer, but it would allow you to experience some of those things if they're on your bucket list. For these kinds of opportunities, the best way to find them is on, I mostly use the top 3 websites, coolworks.com, Workaway, Helps, and then there's Woofing that's mostly for farming, if you're interested in those. And then there are also so many different now with like TikTok and like Facebook groups, someone's always posting something. But what I also did was for both the Mardi Gras and Cape Town experience, I just found a hotel or a hostel that looked interesting to me, and I directly emailed them. I pitched myself as someone who could do social media, could do receptionist work, and I got selected for doing social media both times. So if you don't find what you're looking for and there's something on your radar, I'd say just pitch them like, hey, I'm traveling for this long and I can either trade my like services of like, you could be an artist, you could do artwork, you can do like video, you can do social media, you can do photography, or you could also be a receptionist or like a bartender. So depending on what you're looking for, just pitch them. Okay, so I touched on this briefly, but scholarships and like through the government and just like federal or like large scale scholarships, those are like I feel like there's more and more every single day that I come across and I like regret not doing them. These are great because they're typically fully funded, like so you don't have to worry about anything. But you just have to note that if you do anything with the government, some of these require you like working for the government afterwards to kind of like I guess pay it back or to like bring back what you learned. So that's just one thing to note and to look for. But there's so many of these. There's Fulbright, which allows you to go abroad for a whole year. You can do it and through like a different variety of ways. You can teach English. You can do research. So if you're like, you know, research driven or like doing something like a PhD or master's that requires it, that could be something really cool. They also have a newer one with storytelling, and that looks really, really cool with Nat Geo. That's fully funded, and they're still accepting applications until the 12th, I believe. Um, there's a critical language scholarship where you go study a language in a country that that language is native to. There's Boren, there's Peace Corps, and now they have Peace Corps Response, and they're still going even now. Peace Corps Response is if you're a professional, so you can do this even post-grad, or you can use your experience as a professional. You can do it for shorter term, from anywhere from 3 to 12 months. So if you're a nurse or if you're an architect, you could take your skill set somewhere and apply those skills. Like they have HIV programs, they have a sustainability programs. So there's lots of different options. One thing I learned while I was traveling is there are so many opportunities with the different embassies all over the world. You can get roles to work at like an embassy in another country, and they have some really cool programs and allow you to do a lot of different things. So again, if you have like interest in like public health or teaching or education, there's opportunities from like getting a role at the US Embassy in another country to like build out programs, or vice versa if you like have another like citizenship or anything and want to work at an embassy of the country that you're from, you can do that in other countries as well. There's the Rhodes Scholarship, there's United Nations, any of the global health groups or CDC or anything public health related have so many different opportunities to go abroad. Okay, this one I feel like a lot of people have heard of, and I feel like I see more often than others, is teaching English. That's a great way to go abroad because you can bring a skill that you have to other countries that they need. So this is for someone who's ideally like looking for something long term, building their resume to kind of like get a full-time job essentially, and then obviously like working with like kids or adults, working with people essentially. And these can vary. So there's short-term programs that I'm like dying to try out. There's one called Angleville, and this one is super short. It's like 3 to 4 days where you get a free hotel, like 3 to 4 star hotel. And essentially they're supposed to be long, hard days. So I'm going to be honest that you would have to work for quite a bit, but they're supposed to be really rewarding where you meet people who are wanting to learn English, and you basically workshop for like 12 hours a day, I've heard. And then you get like weekends free, and you also get one free day where they take you on a tour by the company Angleville. And then there's also a company called, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, by Diverbo. They do it in Spain and Germany, whereas Angleville, I've seen most locations like in Eastern Europe and one in Malta. So if those are countries of interest and you're looking for a short stint, maybe you want to backpack and like maybe you want to break it up with like short little working sessions like this to save money or to break it up. You can do that, or there's like long-term programs through so many different companies. A couple are listed there. And then there's the virtual ones that I heard now that they might not be so common because of the laws going through, but that I don't know. But these pay pretty decently, and you can do it for as little or as long as you want. VIP kit or Cambly, you just need for VIP kit a bachelor's degree, and then to go through a couple of interviews. Christine, did we want to stop for questions only at the end? Because I see the chat going off, and I wanted to make sure.
That's a good question. We have had just, why don't we, since we've already paused, I am learning so much. I feel like this needs to be retitled as how to travel abroad as a student and a non-student. But I hope everyone's enjoying it. I'm enjoying it so much. One of the things that came up is the question around the government opportunities, which I thought was really interesting, that list. Subira was adding to it, but are all of those US citizens only, or do you know if some of those are opportunities for everybody?
Most of these are US citizen except for the United Nations, or yeah, from United Nations, from what I know. So most of these unfortunately are US.
Oh, wow. And actually, so Erica added in here because the Angloville one sounded really interesting, but there's an event coming up for that in December. So we'll talk about upcoming events, but if anyone is interested in that, be on the lookout for that. I would say one other question, because I've been fascinated by some of the info that are jam-packed on these slides. And I know you're providing a link as well. Will that include these slides and people can access them afterwards?
Yes, exactly. So there will be a link provided where you will get access to this deck, because I know that there's a lot on them.
Awesome.
Not to worry.
And I will be providing that link in her social handles again. I think those are some of the main things right now. Does anyone else have a question, you can either add in the chat or just for a second, anyone want to unmute? Otherwise we can save it to the end. Going in 3, going in you, going in. Nabila, get back to it.
All right, moving forward. So yeah, this is just a little bit more on Angleville. I have like a little blurb from someone who talked about their experience. It was through a Facebook travel group that I saw. So I've never done this program, so I can't speak to it, but generally it has like positive reviews. The one thing is like there is a lot of work sometimes, but another thing that you can get out of it is that you can get a TEFL course if you end up doing 3 weeks with them. So some of those courses can be expensive. There are more inexpensive ones. So if you're looking to maximize your experience, you could even get a certification like for free and then use it to teach English long-term if you'd like it. One thing to note is that it's not only kids. So if you want to like work with adults or like teenagers, there's options. And I think it's a really cool opportunity. So I'm glad there's an event happening for it. Here's another one. Now that we have like the influencer and social media and content creators, I feel like there's so many more opportunities through different companies. Not that you have to be a creator, but I think there's more opportunities for them through directly travel companies. So they're usually fully funded and they are great. So I feel like for me, this is what I do. I just simply like search on Google. I feel like Google brings up so many things and you just have to know like different keywords to look, but I have some of the keywords listed right there. And like those results kind of gave me, like those keywords gave me those results listed below. Might be harder to find now because of our current situation, but before that happened, Kontiki, which is a travel group agency, was having travel ambassadors. And when I came across it, I was like so surprised to see how many, like the variety of travel ambassadors they had. Some were content creators, some really had like 1,000 followers or less. So they just had like a passion for travel. But this was the year that the pandemic happened. So I don't know what that like criteria looked like to apply, and they haven't reinstated it yet. But that goes to show that there are companies that do that. And there's another one called Go Overseas. My friend actually won the Ireland scholarship and she's actually there right now. And this is the second one she's won. And so they exist. And Go Overseas is a company that finds jobs or internships abroad. So you can just get a scholarship through them where it's fully funded as well. And then I also have those links there for you to peruse afterwards. So this goes to show like someone that you might like book a trip with. You could see if there's like a scholarship or a program or even just like a giveaway sometimes. Remote work. So I think this one's made a little bit easier now with our situation that there are people who are now working remote that never thought they could. I am actually one of them. So I have a full-time remote job. And I'm a pharmacist, but I work in tech now in marketing. And so this allows me to have more flexibility to live where I want. So depending on where you work, you can't go where you would like. And you obviously need to know of like internet and different things and tax. But those are things to note, but it is great depending on who you work for and the different rules around that. I feel like it's really easy to find a remote work now. But some of the things that you could look into is like digital marketing or social media management, like being a virtual assistant. Tech roles are generally more flexible, I found, or if you're into writing or journalism, you could also do that. You know, you don't really need to be in office and you can do that independently, location independent. I've listed some of the groups that I subscribe to and find a lot of things, and even some of the social media accounts that I found really, really helpful. So there's the top two are female oriented, and then there's Upwork, Fiverr, and like honestly, Twitter. I can't believe I didn't have Twitter up until recently because Twitter has so many postings and callings for different things like writing assignments, pitches, all sorts of things. And then these are a couple of my favorite social media accounts and friends. So Jenna Jetplane, she has a TikTok full of different options and different opportunities. And then It's a Travel OD, name's Andrea, and she only shares how to get a remote job and how to set yourself up to find remote work. So if you're a student and like don't really have, a resume or aren't looking to work full time, there's so many different ways that you could find something short term or more like flexible if you're looking for cash, like during this, like the summer, but you still want to travel. I touched on this a little bit, but if you're looking for something that doesn't exist, go out and create it. So if you like love social media and you think like you want to stay at this hostel or hotel, or you think that they could use like, some beefing up or something, and you think you could provide them a skill, just go ahead and email that hostel and say like, hey, I would love to do this. I can provide you this in exchange for this. If you like photography, pitch like a restaurant or a hotel that you're like traveling to and say, hey, I'd love to like provide you with photos. And like, I would like to like try your food or something in exchange for like whatever. You don't necessarily have to be like an influencer or content creator. I've found and heard so many stories of people having like 300 followers and landing a paid gig. So it's really like worth shooting your shot. And then the other thing is, if you're an artist, a lot of these places will also like commission artists to like to paint, make something, and they get to stay there for free. There's even like hostels that have like specific like links for this. Like for example, one of my favorite hostels is called Selena, and it started in Panama. It's mostly all over Central America and South America, and there's a couple in Europe, and they actually have some in the US as well. Some of them are hotels though. And if you go on their website, they have like what they call like a film and like video residency where you like show your portfolio and you get to stay with them for like, I think 3 weeks. And so they really welcome that. So that's to say, like, if it doesn't exist, like you have skills, so you can find a way to travel if you need, or to make money, and you can lean on that. I wanted to talk about like making friends and meeting people because I am a solo traveler, and I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about these opportunities and going while they're a student, that they might not make any friends or meet anyone. So I wanted to just like highlight that really quickly. If you're a solo traveler or do something like this and you're by yourself, like you don't spend most of your time alone and you don't have to. I've definitely met a lot of people while solo traveling. I'd argue that when I'm alone, I'd meet more people because like there's less barrier of entry. You're not really surrounded by your own friends, and you can, branch out a little bit, and you're less intimidating, that's for sure. So here's like my quick list. I'd say like the top ways is like staying at a hostel, because those are obviously more community oriented, or if you don't want to stay at one because it's not your thing, you can definitely go hang out there and hang out at the bar or an event. If you get a remote job, I found working from a co-working space is a great way to meet people no matter where you are. Obviously, the Nomadic network has like networking events and happy hours, like finding an event like that. And then, talking to people where you're eating or staying, going on a free walking tour, there's bound to be other travelers. And there's so many other ways to meet people. So I won't go through all of them, but that's just to say that you don't have to be alone, even if you do something unconventional. A little bit more resources for networking. This is also great for finding opportunities. So I've added like some of the apps I use, some of the Facebook groups I'm like a part of, and then just some of the memberships that you can pay to be in that I've heard from my friends and community, but I also subscribe to find different opportunities like for travel, but also to meet people. And that brings us to the end. I know I threw a lot out there, but I wanted to open this up for Q&A.
You really did. I'm so relieved that you are providing these slides to everybody so they can go back to them. Thank you, Nabila. That was amazing. I have a long list of questions. Obviously, if anyone has questions, feel free to use the chat or to just unmute, but I'll kick it off with one question and then we'll see what questions other people have. I think one of the things that was fascinating for me is how much you are shooting your shot and pitching yourself. And I'm curious, actually, maybe with the Twitter one, for example, like when you are responding to things on Twitter, are you following certain accounts or are there certain hashtags on Twitter that you're looking for to be able to find those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really depends on what kind of industry you're in or what you're looking for. I found that I'm very much obviously in the travel space and would like to do travel work. So I definitely type in like, I also write for Forbes. So I'm following other journalists, I'm following other people in the travel space. And then I also work in tech. So I'm like looking into that mostly for tech to like learn more about it. But I look for those general things that I'm like interested in. And I found that like for journalists, they're always looking for like sources, or if they're not able to take on a story, they're like, hey, like someone's accepting pitches, like this isn't for me. So I guess maybe I've just gotten lucky and finding those people who are offering that up. But I just feel like my whole feed is like full of like different opportunities or someone saying like this person's hiring or something like that. So I would say start off by like finding your categories, like what you're interested in, and then going down the list. So starting with like a publication. For me, I went through all of the travel ones, like Forbes, Travel, Leisure, like all of those, and then found who was a journalist there.
Very clever. I love that. If that interests anyone, I would say one additional tip that I use, actually, maybe Nabila, this will be helpful for you, is, for example, like if I see an opportunity that I can pitch out there, I'll try to find either the company or the PR person that's behind that on Twitter, because there's this weird social platformness of Twitter where people will respond when you tweet to them, which is not like other social platforms. And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I agree.
Love that. Does anyone else have any questions you want to jump in with? You're welcome to unmute. We're a small and mighty group. Come on, it was a question. There's so many.
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you and see you. Great, Sabira. Hi.
Okay, good. So I was wondering, like, if you ever dealt with criticism that you prioritize travel too much, like in your education or your career, and like, how do you deal with that, or like, what do you say to justify that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna be completely honest. All throughout pharmacy school, I definitely got a lot of questions and things like that because I was always looking for an opportunity to travel and like researching that and spending a lot of my time instead of like getting the typical internship or and definitely got a lot of like questions there, and it made me feel like I was maybe in the wrong place sometimes, like doing the wrong career or something. But I found that by doing that, I really found like I landed where I wanted to and ended up being like traveling, oddly enough, gave me the skill sets I needed, like the soft skills, to get me to the job that I'm at now and to be where I am. And so I definitely did get a lot of criticism, especially from like my parents of being like a first generation. So I think I stayed true to who I was and kind of, when someone says like not to do something, you want to do it. I feel like I kind of went with that same mentality. And then I think those people who questioned me eventually saw that like it was a leg up for me, and I was still obviously going to finish school on time, was like filling all the needs and marking off all the checkbox, and the same with my parents. So I think it only just like invigorated me more, but maybe that's just me.
That's powerful. Way to stick with it, girlfriend. Love it. We have a question that came in from Mithri, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name. But there, you talk so much. How many countries did you say that you traveled to?
Me?
Yeah.
Into it now 40. So 36 when I was a student.
Oh, just 36 when you're saying that's amazing. But Mithri asks if there are opportunities like this to travel within the States, like work exchange opportunities.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many now because like domestic travel, I feel like opened up first. So like I mentioned, for me, I did the hostel in New Orleans. To be honest, I've always prioritized leaving the US whenever I was traveling. So I never really looked into it, but there are different like opportunities like AmeriCorps. So that's kind of like Peace Corps. There's a whole list. But it all depends on what you're looking for. I feel like I could go really, really wide, but short answer is yes, there are opportunities like this in the States.
Awesome. Rashonda has a really good question with like, how are you navigating visa situations? And I know that with 36 countries, it's probably different in every situation. But I guess, is there a general way that you would approach that?
Yeah, so since I was a student and like my max I'd say was like 3 months, I could go for that summer break. That's usually generally like a good time period where you don't need a visa in most countries. And because you're not, for some of these opportunities, you're not really getting paid per se, you don't really need like a work visa. And so that's kind of like the workaround. And that's why I did those, because work visas and all that can get messy and cost money. And so that's the beauty of that. I'd say I did need tourist visas. But they're like, you have to get that to enter. So I would just look that up as you would like kind of like now for a COVID requirement beforehand. And they're pretty simple to maneuver. You can do most of them online or when you get there.
Yeah, that's helpful. I love that. And Subir, I love that you've done AmeriCorps in Boston. Okay, Nabila, I have a hard question for you. And this is a question I get asked all the time, and it's really hard to answer. So I'm curious how you would answer it. Going back to the shooting your shot thing and, figuring out how you want to pitch places, I guess maybe the right way to ask the question is like leading up to a trip that you might take to a specific country you're targeting. How many pitches would you be sending out, and what was your average success rate?
Oh, that is really hard.
I know, right? People ask me that all the time. I'm like, oh, you have to get really specific. I don't know, maybe think about one specific example. Like for me, it's like 20 to 25 pitches, maybe 4 warm leads, closing on 2 and picking from 2, and sometimes coming up completely dry. And then you go shoot your shot somewhere else.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I agree with you. I definitely pitch out a lot, but I feel like once you start doing that, you kind of get comfortable or have maybe like responses that you like have developed. So sometimes I don't keep track of how many I'm pitching, and maybe I should, and maybe I'd stop doing that, noticing how many I send. Yeah, there's definitely days or times where I don't get a lot. I'd say pretty much on par with what you have. Like I'll send maybe like close to 20, 30, get responses from like maybe 5, and then like have follow-ups and like, build up to something like maybe 1 or 2 out of them.
Let's high five to that. Yeah. Erica asked a good question, which how many of your friends have followed in your footsteps?
That's a good question. I'd say I've definitely inspired my friends to try solo travel or to at least go travel quite a bit. Not consistently. I feel like most of my friends don't want to stay, but They have, yeah, I'd say a good chunk of them. I mean, I've been doing it for like 8 or 9 years now. They've gotten tired of me talking about it. They had to
I
figure.
do. I do love that you were really solid in what you were doing, because even when there were the naysayers or the people who didn't necessarily support you in that way, over time, and I feel this way too, where you show you can do it, and then everyone was like, oh wow, like they get used to it, and then they like want to follow in your footsteps. I feel like that's the normal path of things. Actually, a lead on question to that, or additional question to that, who do you find your inspiration from? I know you've named a couple people for remote work stuff, but is there anyone that you would share for others who are curious about who you found inspiration from?
Yeah, I'd say Gabby Beckford from Pax Light. She's a friend. We've been friends like virtually for so long, and I like watched her take her journey to becoming a full-time travel content creator and really just paving the way. Especially she did it in 2020, or actually at the end. So yeah, 2020. So during the pandemic, she's a friend of mine, and I'd say I have a lot of friends who actually don't really have like social media at all, but still travel very much. And I appreciate that they found it, and it's not, they don't use social media to like get travel in. I think that there's so many different ways. And I feel like so many people who think of like people traveling is only because they have a social media following, and that's not true. So I'd say a lot of my close friends who were already traveling, or Gabby, and yeah, Jen Ruiz, I also know her personally. So she's actually from like a hometown really close to me. So I think it's really cool that I found, and she's also a lawyer. So she left her law like practice and all that stuff to travel. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, two really awesome people. And I'm keeping an eye on time. We're going to do two last questions and then I'll wrap it up. Actually, Rashonda asked an important question, which is, how do you think about travel insurance?
That is such a good question. I actually had slides on this because I love talking about this because it combines travel and health. My personal opinion is to definitely get it. I think it's really important, can save you so much, especially I had friends who were in Zimbabwe when everything happened, and they had like emergency flights situation to come home to be evacuated, and it saved them so much money. I personally used what is it, World Nomads? Am I making that up? Yeah, World Nomads. I've used that. I had to use it once. They paid me on time. It was fairly inexpensive. I got it when I was backpacking for 4 months in Africa for less than $200. So I found it just comforting to have in case anything happened. But I could probably dive deeper into that offline if anyone wanted to reach out. But yes.
That's awesome. And actually, I just dropped all of your handles in the chat below in case anyone does have any additional questions. But as I pull up my slides, Nabila, we would love to hear what's next for you.
I try not to take a plan too far in advance. I say that I take my life like 3 months at a time, but I definitely have some travels coming up, which I'm excited to go. I am headed to Miami this weekend, but then my big trip, I think my second big trip this year will be Morocco. So definitely just am enjoying working, creating content, building this community, and traveling when I have time.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm really excited for you because I just arrived in South Florida today off of the red eye, and the weather in Miami this weekend is going to be fantastic. In case you didn't know that, but thank you so much for sharing that. Morocco, that's really exciting. And 3 months at a time is way more months at a time than I planned my own life. So that's pretty amazing. But for those who have joined us today, thank you so much. You guys can see my screen, little head nod. You're not just looking at blankness. Awesome. If you found value in today's event, connect with us. There is the Nomadic Network Plus events where you can do the replays, and there's tons of additional resources and info in there. So be sure to check that out. Again, I have dropped Nabila's information in the chat so you can connect with her after this. And there's lots more, including the December event that's coming soon. But here's kind of a screenshot aside from the one that we just had, which was amazing. Thank you, Nabila. Here are some of the upcoming events. And I will be hosting a few of them. So you'll see my face a few more times in these events. And then the book club is coming up in November. If you're not already a part of that, consider checking that out. Wow, my computer's freaking out. That's exciting. And so to close it up, we really just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Nabila. Can we give her a little virtual round of applause? Thank you so much for a really awesome event. Nabila, did you have anything else that you wanted to share or say before we close out?
I just wanted to say thank you to both you and Erica for hosting this and having me, and for everyone who came and asked questions and made it engaging. Thank you so much. If you want to connect, or if you want the slides, yeah, the links are there. I would love to connect with you afterwards.
Awesome. I'll be connecting with you. You'll hear about my non-student full-time travel.
Because I'm not a student anymore either.